Hello everyone, on Feb the 27th, Mars will enter into Capricorn, his exalted state. He's extremely powerful, but he also meets up with his great enemies, Mercury and Shani, and things get a little complicated. Furthermore, there is a powerful Yuga in operation for some time of this transit. What will this mean for you and indeed for the world? I have all the details on the video. If you're new to my channel, don't forget to sub below, and if the video is good for you, give it a thumbs up. Let's begin. On Feb 27th, then, we have Mars entering into Capricorn, still tailed by Venus. It's very interesting in world affairs, I'll discuss in a minute. And also, we have the Yuga beginning when we have two signs, Capricorn and Aquarius, with all of the grahas present. Let's just have a look at this Yuga. Yuga then means that all the planets are in two signs only, as you can see here, and that Rahu, Ketu are never included in that count. But interestingly enough, Rahu, Ketu are involved in this configuration because they are hemming Rahu, Ketu into a Kal-Sarp snake yoga. We are contained in a very potent karmic moment, everybody, in the year. The decisions that you make, the choices which are before you now are extremely karmic, and you have to take a great deal of caution. Furthermore, the result of this Yuga is hugely karmic depending on past action. Why? Because Shani rules Capricorn and Aquarius. He gives the result of this imbalance situation. And furthermore, a very dangerous thing in my mind is that the Sun is weak in Aquarius, furthest away from Leo, and Jupiter is combust. Jupiter rules fairness, justice, righteous action, dharmic action, but all that is lost in this combustion. So circle the dates in your diary, everybody, of this Yuga, so you have the utmost caution. Don't let yourself be pushed into a corner. These are the dates, the 27th of Feb until March the 3rd, because after March the 3rd, the moon will break the yoga, having moved into Pisces. So those are the dates to be super cautious, and don't let yourself be pushed into any precipitous decision. Now to Mars. Mars has entered into Capricorn. He's very happy to be here. I explained in my last Mars video how Mars has been gaining strength recently and having a great effect on world affairs, and I'm going to separately talk about that. You see, Mars was in the sign of Scorpio, in the bunker, planning ahead. He entered into the battlefield, but he was stopped in his progress by Venus, and Venus is still with him now as he enters his exaltation sign. Why is Mars so strong in Capricorn? Because Capricorn represents a graveyard. He's been on the battlefield, and metaphorically speaking, he now has all the bodies of the enemies in front of him. It's a very exalting situation. That's when a general is victorious, right? Surrounded by the enemies who have now been killed. But from Mars's point of view, he may be exalted, but he's with too many other planets to really have an easy time of it. Venus, Moon, Mercury, Saturn. This is a very messy situation when there are so many planets in one sign, and particularly the annoying conjunction for Mars is that of Venus. You see, when Mars is combust with Venus for so long now, you must have all noticed how your actions in the world, Mars is our action. What we want to do, what we want to accomplish in life has been frustrated by Venus, has been distracted. You've been distracted by pleasure. You've been distracted by entertainment. You've been distracted by relationships. You've been distracted by so many factors, and your purpose is not being achieved. And Mars is at this point a little bit fed up with all of this distraction. This is why everybody at the beginning of the transit will feel the need to just push ahead and make the fast decision. You've been wanting to do it for so long. Let's just get on with it, will be the cry. But Venus is once again causing a roadblock, and indeed Mercury, which is business affairs, monetary factors, are very, very difficult to overcome at this time, because Mars and Mercury are not friends. What happens when Mars is in the same sign as Mercury? There's a lot of aggression in the air. Mercury takes on the qualities of Mars and Shani, and he becomes super aggressive and quarrelsome, and basically everybody is at odds with everybody else. It's a time for extreme caution in all areas of your life. So the whole of this Capricorn Mars transit, you are working up to making this decision which you put off for so long. Everybody is working up to this action in their life. As I say, caution at the beginning is absolutely necessary because of the Yuga yoga. But as Mars gets closer and closer to Saturn, all the other planets have moved on. And at that time, a wholly different scenario will be seen in the skies. Those dates are April the 5th and 6th, but you'll feel the effect right from the beginning of April when Saturn and Mars are exactly conjunct alone in Capricorn. It's a very important danger point in the world and in your life, but in a way a decision will be made. Why? Because Mars is at his exaltation degree. 28 Capricorn is the exact exaltation of Mars, where he is exactly conjunct to Saturn. And Saturn is a little bit weaker now just by the fact that he's at the end of the sign. And Mars is so exalted. So Saturn has got a little bit tired now, and Mars is at his most potent point. So by this point in Mars's journey in Capricorn, the absolute decision, the absolute necessity of action will have been brought forth, and Saturn will give a little bit of frustration in this. There are 3 possible consequences. You may find that you've accomplished what you wanted to by Mars's exaltation, but the reality, as shown by Saturn, is not what you anticipated. So it can be a bit disappointing. It can be a bit of a flattening moment. You've got what you want, but it's not quite what you thought it would be. That is one possible scenario. Some people with this Mars-Saturn scenario will actually pull back from an action in their life. They will see it's never going to be what they planned, what they ideally wanted, and you will simply give it up and go in a completely different direction. But that's quite rare. It's more likely that many people will reconsider the action they've been planning, thinking that they need a little bit more time to get everything right. So you retreat and try again at another time. Let's focus on world affairs for a brief time now, because I've actually been asked quite a few questions below my videos, particularly about Ukraine-Europe crisis. So let's look at it from the vantage point of Mars. Mars is the army on the battlefield. It's very important to see it like this. Now, I spoke about the build-up to this crisis situation on my last 2 Mars videos, particularly last video, when I explained to you how Mars in Scorpio have been planning in the bunker below ground where those Scorpions live, right in his own home, planning in secret. But then that Mars in Sagittarius, which is where he is now as I make the video, is on the battlefield ready to charge. But what will come in his way, as I told you then, is Venus. The most inconvenience factor for any army is the factor of diplomacy. Think about Mars in Capricorn, everyone, is that he's exalted, so he wants what he wants. He will brook no interference, and that goes for every side involved. Russia wants their aims met, so does Ukraine, so does the NATO allies. There is no compromise. There is all-out determination. It's interesting to note, everyone, that in September of 1939, when the Second World War began, Mars was also present in the sign of Capricorn. But he was alone at that time, not with all of these complications going on, because this is not in any way a straightforward scenario. At the same time, it's a messy situation with even monetary business affairs involved, with Mercury being present here. What we can say for sure is that when Mars and Saturn are alone in Capricorn at the beginning of April, it gets to a huge crisis point. If there has been conflict, there could be retreat, there could be compromise, but there will definitely not be a whole end to it, because Mars and Saturn, as I've shown you, is extremely dangerous when Mars is in control, and Mars at 28 Capricorn is in his most exalted state. And after this, Mars goes forward until he enters Aries in June 22. And who will be there to stop Mars now? Nobody. Only Rahu. So for sure, between April and June of this year is the most dangerous time in this whole crisis situation. With that sobering thought in mind, everyone, let's move ahead to the predictions for all signs. We're reading from the Vedic Moon and Ascendant both to get the deepest interpretation. For Aries, Moon and Aries, Lagna, one of the most important transits of the year, when your Lord Mars is in the 10th house in an exalted state. This is the make or break time. This is the time when the pressure on your career is going to be outstanding, but the results can be tremendous. The thing is, you've got to do something independently now, and something rather daring. Even though you want to do this daring thing, there is so much pressure on you that waiting a little while, as I've talked about on the video, is probably the best thing, particularly on the dates I've just given you when the Yuga yoga is in place. It's certainly a messy and confrontational situation in your working place, whether you're employed, whether you're self-employed, whether you're a boss, whatever it is, whoever you are, there is a conflict going on and you're right in the middle of it. So be careful with your words. What you've spoken cannot easily be taken back. But the good news is, because Mars has a fourth aspect onto your first house, that you gain from all of this confusion and this disarray. Basically, you gain confidence from what you really, really want. And at the end of this transit, you make a definite decision. It's a bit of a stalemate situation for you, though, when Mars conjuncts Shani at the end of the sign at the beginning of April. I've just spoken about on the video. Don't be pushed into any scenario then. Just take it slowly. Maybe you have to come off some of your ambitions at that time, take a bit of a back seat for a while, but it's not for long. When Mars goes into your 11th house, doors open up for you much easier, and that's in the middle of April. And Mars and Saturn aspecting the fourth house at the beginning of April is also challenging, particularly if you're moving home. A lot of frustration could be felt, a lot of difficulty at that time, and even your mother could be under some affliction in her health. Mars aspecting the fifth house brings children into your mind, difficulties with them, and also in your education. There could be conflicting situations involved there for many of you. So you're very ambitious at this time, but hold on, you're nearly there to the big decisions that push your life forward. For Taurus Moon, Taurus Lagna, there's a lot of pressure in your 9th house now. It's a bit of a mess for you in this area because Mars is a tricky planet for you, ruling your 7th and your 12th house. This is where the fears and the phobias and the paranoia comes into Taurus. Your mind is in overdrive in this transit, and you've got to be really careful about your thinking during this time. This is a house of higher education. It's certainly going to impact students. All students will feel completely overwhelmed at this time. There's confusion on your course. There's a real lack of organization. This applies even if you're not a full-time student, but taking on any sort of learning. It's all feeling too much. It's overwhelming you, and you feel like throwing up your hands in the air. Don't do that. There is great benefit here for you if you have a little more patience, and Taurus, you've got plenty of that. Don't get yourself into disputes with your teachers, with your fellow students, with your brothers, your sisters, your cousins. All of these are very possible. You're feeling so on edge, and everybody else is, as I've just explained on the video. So in all educational learning opportunities, take it easy. Take a little break from it. Mars has a fourth aspect onto the 12th house of your chart, and this is actually at this time most helpful. The 12th house is a house of meditation, retreat, peace and quiet. Mars makes you want to go there now. You want to get away from it all. And even if you can't go anywhere, and probably actually it's not a good time for travel, Mars here aspecting 3rd house makes many delays, disruptions. So just going into meditation, into quiet, into contemplation will help you through all the disruptions of this current transit. If you feel too stressed to even carry out meditation and quiet, then simply put your energy into the home. The 8th aspect of Mars shows there is a transformation necessary in the home. Some of you may be actually moving or thinking of moving at this time. That will definitely be an outlet for this stress in your mind. But also renovations, repairs, rearranging things in your home will make you feel a million times better at this time. Finally, because Mars is your 7th lord and Venus, your 1st lord, are conjunct together still, and this time in the 9th house, watch for quarrels and emotional showdowns with your spouse, with your close friends, and even with your father. It's all to do with confusion about future goals. Where are you going together? Where is the future? There is some confusion, and it's causing tension between you all. But these are not serious conflicts in any way, because Venus, your lord, is here. You will be the one to make the peace and to keep the peace, and that's definitely a good thing. Gemini Moon, Gemini Light. Now, this is quite a difficult part of the year for you, there's no doubt. The pressure is on in your financial and family affairs, and if you're in business, it's a bit of a mess at the moment. There seems no sorting out of things. You're far better to wait until this whole transit dissipates before you make any big business or financial move, especially stock market investments. Hold tight. You are feeling pressured into the wrong decision. It becomes especially true if it's your moon in Gemini, because from the moon in Gemini, the Astam Shani is even stronger than from Ascendant, I've seen. So when Mars gets to this conjunction of Saturn at the beginning of April, there's a real blockage in your life. This could be health, or it could actually be financial. Take extra care and don't rush in anything that you are doing at the beginning of April. Another factor of the 8th house is wills, legacies, inheritance. They could be very troublesome for you now. Things may not go in any way as you have expected in any of these affairs. Don't go changing around savings accounts, pension pots, all of these now. Give it a little more time, because Saturn is frustrating all of your efforts at this time. What is a good thing here? Well, Mars here intensifies study. So students among you definitely get a lot out of this transit. You go deep into the deepest research now. Mars and Saturn increase penetration of research. You get tremendous educational results. Also, because Mars aspects the 3rd house, your mind and your logic is especially strong during this transit. Another factor, because of Mars's aspect onto the 11th house of your chart, you can get a lot of support from your social network circles, but be careful who you're listening to in regard to financial affairs. Once again, there are a lot of conflicts of interest. Keep your own counsel in all financial situations at this time. For Cancer Moon and Cancer Light, there's so much pressure in the 7th house of your chart. It's a bit of a mess. What is your partner up to? What do they want? How is the relationship going to work out? Where are you going together? Where is your financial future? It's all up in the air right now. It doesn't mean that your whole relationship's breaking down, but your spouse is having a very difficult time, and it's impacting strongly on yourself. There's pressure also from the in-laws, and there's a lack of help coming from them, because Jupiter is here with the sun, as I've said, in a combust state. So they're not able to help you out. If you are in business, it's a doubly difficult time now, because the whole marketplace situation is just confused and not working for you. You've definitely got to take some peace and calm during this transit, because you are getting so much pressure from other people that it will affect on your health, because it directly affects the 1st house of your chart, which is your own health and your own body. What can you do? Put the effort into your career, get into the office, get out of the home, get into a situation where you can do things in the world. Mars's 4th aspect on the 10th house. Despite all of the partnership and business difficulties, getting on with the work at hand. 10th house is hard work. Just keep on working, Cancer. Put your nose to the grindstone and you will dissipate so much stress in your life at this time. But avoid confrontation with the boss and with anybody in the workplace. Just do your own job. That's the best way forward. Finally, watch your food intake. 8th aspect to Mars onto the 2nd house of food and substance intake. Be really careful. Don't take refuge in overindulgence. You do tend to that. You love to eat, and sometimes eating gets out of hand when you get stressed. So watch that you are eating healthily and calmly at all times, and avoid addictive substances. They're the worst thing for you now. Get addicted to your work in this transit, Cancer, and it will go far easier for you. For Leo Moon and Leo Light, now what a lot of pressure on you in the 6th house of your chart, but actually it's good. Mars is your Yoga Karaka and he loves to be in the 6th house, so you're ready for the battle. But my goodness, I bet you didn't bargain for all the obstacles you're going to have to face, Leo, during the next few weeks. Most of you, though, are more than ready to take on the extra work required, and this especially affects your health. Mars will bring up new health issues, but they need to be brought up now. Hospital appointments will be helpful to you. There may be accidents, mishaps also, so be really careful about this. You will actually find new medication, a new way to treat a long-standing illness now, and by facing health problems full on, you will definitely find good solution in the next few weeks. weeks. Now, the confrontation of Mars with Saturn, your 7th lord, ruling partners and business partners, by the way, happens, as I've shown you on the video, at the beginning of April. That's a crucial turning point for you. You've got to compromise here, Leo. Yes, you have the power to get your way, but will it serve you long term? Take into account what your partner says, what your spouse says, what your girlfriend, boyfriend says, and try to find some middle ground. Otherwise, it could be very, very difficult in any relationship or even business partnership at that time. You are in education, you're working full out at this time. I mean, really full out. There's non-stop amount of work on your plate. And the aspect of Mars to the 9th house and 12th house is good for study, though. You get your head around some very complicated learning curves and you come out a winner. You can really increase in your grades at this time. It's a great time for application to study. Watch your finances. Mars aspecting 12th house shows that debts are becoming a problem for you and you're even losing track of them. Try to not overspend. It's a very big temptation. Mars aspect onto the 1st house. Watch your energy level too. You can literally exhaust yourself doing so much at one time. As I've said, accidents, mishaps can be a likelihood. So take some time for relaxation and you'll get even more success from this very profitable period. It's a bumpy ride for Virgo Moon and Virgo Lagna with so much pressure in the 5th house of your chart because Mars is always difficult for you. He's your 3rd and your 8th lord. He puts you into confrontation anyway with other people and he brings financial pressure into your life. Very irritating and worrying time for you when Mars is with your Lord Mercury. You get worried, you get over concerned with facts and you put pressure on other people and they seem to come back at you. So it's a very stressed time. You definitely need to take a bit of time out for yourself. Mars aspect on the 12th house shows you the outlet is meditation, retreat, spiritual factors. Just take a little bit of time for yourself because children are causing you concern, aggravation, education is seeming impossible to focus on and you are feeling all sorts of temptations in regard to relationship affairs and even financial affairs. It's all unusual for Virgo. It's because Venus is so close to Mars in this 5th house. There may be some new interesting love affair coming up, but are you on the same wavelength? Take time to get to know everybody. Venus and Mars also makes you very inclined to let your barriers down in regard to financial speculation, especially as Mars has a 4th aspect onto the house of stock market and risky affairs. So don't listen to your network circles at this time, to your friendship circles. Just listen to your inner voice because you need to take caution here. Not until Mars aspects Saturn. At the end of this period, as I've just said on the video, first week in April, will you make the most accurate decision about financial factors. Don't take any precipitous move. In the beginning of this transit, as I've spoken on the video, it's very, very risky for you financially indeed. Watch your debts and expenses as well because Mars has an 8th aspect to the 12th house of expenses. Are you spending excessively on enjoyments? Unusually, you may do. So your stress level is making you do unusual and un-Virgonian things, I think, this month. You're really not quite yourself. When Mars gets out of this tricky situation for you and into the 6th house, you'll be far more in control of so many things in your life, and that happens in the middle of April. Libra Moon, Libra Lagna, domestic chaos is definitely on the cards now. Mars is a difficult planet for you because he rules your 7th house of partner, but he's not always going to bring favorable factors for you because he pushes you, whereas you like to take things easy. So now partner is pushing the domestic issues, maybe urging changes there, and are you really ready for that? Are you on the same wavelength? There's some compromise has to be made. It might not be partner, but your career, which is urging domestic changes, renovations, and really you're feeling enormous pressure. Don't forget, from your moon sign, Libra Moon, Saturn has been causing you a great deal of consternation as he's in the 4th house from your moon. It's a similar thing to having Sadi Sati. It's actually called Saturn Dia. So when Mars conjuncts Saturn for Libra Moon at the end of this transit, it's a very important karmic moment. Basically, you're going to have to make a decision about relationships or home life. One of the two, maybe even both. You're always inclined to compromise, Libra, and maybe that's a good thing, but make sure that you have your voice heard in all of these situations. For many of you, mother may be having health problems. Domestic issues are so trying now that all of your work and career is basically putting on a back burner now. And this is not going to help you long term. Putting your effort into your career can actually help you now. Mars aspect onto this 10th house. You should do as much work as you can now and try to put behind you some of these domestic and really insolvable problems for the present time. They can't be completely solved now. They are long-term issues and they need more consideration. Many of you may be considering moving house and making long-term changes to your domestic situation. Once again, it's too involved now. There are too many things that you have to consider all at once, and it's just becoming a total mess in your life. Time to put these things to one side, as I say. And the 8th aspect of Mars to the 11th house gives you a good opening. An opportunity comes to many of you now for a new source of income because of Mars aspect onto the 11th house. This may come completely unexpectedly, but here's the thing. Because it's the 8th aspect of Mars, you have to make domestic changes. You have to change your whole work routine in your office or work situation. And you may think it's not worth the bother, but actually it's more than worth looking into. Scorpio moon, Scorpio Lagna, your Lord in the 3rd house is mighty strong to take on all competitors at one go, and you're in a very fighting mood. You're going to get a lot out of this Mars Capricorn transit, but to begin with, it's going to be quite confusing. Everything looks a bit of a mess in your life in all matters of communication and indeed of education. There's a lot that needs sorting out. Special indication is with your siblings, some unexpected factors coming up which puts a lot of pressure onto you, and even your health needs special consideration at this time. Again, unexpected factors come up and need immediate treatment. There's a lot of stress on your education course because the moon is actually present with Mars at the beginning of this transit. So you're actually trying to get on top of a very stressful education course at this time, and you're making progress, and then all of a sudden there's a curveball set your way on the course. Once again, don't give up. You're going to make exceptional progress on the course with enormous energy this month or 6 weeks or so. So make the most of this. Your studying skills are superb. Your problem-solving skills, mathematical skills, engineering skills, all the things ruled by Mars are in top-notch working order. So whatever course it is you are doing, your logical thinking is superb at this time. You get noticed by the boss in your workplace. If you are seeking a new job, there may be opportunities coming your way, but it's a completely different thing. The 8th aspect of Mars shows a transformation in your working environment. You mightn't like it to begin with, but actually it's going to work out very favorable. Go with this and don't be afraid of these imminent changes. Sagittarius moon and Lagna Mars in your 1st house has been so favorable for you, giving you the initiative, strength and purpose of action. But going into the 2nd house, it's a bit of a wobbly time now. You've got to be really careful. There's such a lot of stress on your financial situation. You're being forced into a corner, particularly in family matters. All of a sudden, you're feeling a lot of insecurity because of this amount of planets in your 2nd house. Sagittarians don't normally bother to even waste time feeling insecure, but you're feeling it because of your financial instability is really coming home now. And it's creating tension in your family affairs and also with your spouse because Mercury, 7th Lord, is involved with Mars during this transit. The aspect onto the 8th house of your in-laws means that more family affairs are becoming disrupted. You need to stabilize finances, but now is the time to show extra caution doing this. If you rush into a quick financial decision, especially speculative factors with the 5th and the 8th house being aspected, speculation is going to be the wrong course of action right now. To steady finances, you have to be more patient. When Mars comes into your 3rd house in the middle of April, you will take all initiative and your whole financial situation will transform dramatically. So bear this situation through and watch your speech at all time. There's going to be some iffy moments, as I say, with your family, with your spouse, but with quite a few people in your life, even with your father's family. Mars having 8th aspect onto your father's house here, the 9th house. And if you're in education, well, it's a make or break situation. Some of you are just going to chuck in the course overnight because of the 8th aspect of Mars onto the 9th house of higher education. Be very cautious about this impulsivity. Once again, Mars aspect to these risk-taking houses makes you willing to take a risk and just say no more. It's too much pressure. It's too expensive. But actually, you can't just pull out of this higher educational course so easily. It's more complicated. The 8th aspect of Mars says take advice carefully before you make any precipitous move, particularly at the beginning of this transit during the Yuga Yoga time, as I've identified on the video. Capricorn, Moon and Lagna, all the spotlight is on you now. With Mars exalted in this sign of Capricorn, you get a lot of energy actually, but Mars is a difficult planet for you, an enemy to your Lord Saturn. So you're in two minds about something you badly want to do, you're having second thoughts. There's too much involved, too much expense, too much compromise is expected of you, and you're just wanting to completely back down. But all the spotlight is on you, and you feel a bit caught actually by your past commitments. So you're feeling pressured to go down a certain route in your life that perhaps you don't want to anymore, particularly in domestic affairs. Making changes there that you perhaps are having second thoughts about. Don't be afraid to have second thoughts about domestic issues now. Mars aspect onto the 4th house shows that things need changing. They can't just be rearranged overnight, but you can put energy into this and not disappoint other people. One of the most important factors is that the moon, who actually rules your spouse, is with Mars at the beginning of this transit together with Venus. So your spouse is looking to you for the leadership, and actually you're feeling a little bit isolated by all of this pressure. You need to speak to your spouse. You need to show that you do not have all the answers. Everything should be a team issue if it can be. So Capricorn, you're feeling under overwhelming pressure now. Give yourself a little bit of a break and be open with others about what you really want and what you don't want. Don't be afraid to back down out of anything which you do not feel up to at this time. The most important factor is your health. With so many planets in this first house, your body itself is under tremendous stress. You're pushing yourself beyond the limit, definitely now that Mars is here. You don't know when to stop. You're a very big workaholic in any case, and Mars, your 11th lord, coming into this house pushes you over the barrier of any pain that you may be feeling. Even if you have pain in your body, you keep on going. So you've got to be cautious now, because accidents, mishaps are very likely once you have Mars in this house, and you are very likely to have even a health breakdown if you don't give yourself a little more space. A very important financial decision though will be made when Mars conjuncts your Lord Saturn at the end of this transit. As I've told you, that will be at the beginning of April. This is your second Lord Saturn as well, and Mars having aspect onto the 8th house of investments. It's a very snazzy decision which you are capable of making because of Mars's exaltation, but it will be not exactly as profitable short term as you would like. It's all to do with long-term investments now, slowing things down. So take it easy. You're putting out so much energy now that it's almost burning up. Be careful. Take it step by step. Aquarius, Moon and Lagna, if ever there was a time to take a back seat and take your finger out of so many pies in life, this is it. With Mars going into the 12th house now, together with your Lord Shani for a major confrontation at the beginning of April, it's time to take things easy. Quell your fears. You're full of fears, forebodings, phobias, and dark thoughts at this time, and even your sleep is becoming disturbed. You are getting so stressed. What is stressing you? Well, it may be ongoing conflict, litigation because of Mars aspect to the 3rd and the 6th house. It could very well be ongoing unsolved health problems and even health of your spouse. There is concern for your spouse's well-being well-being, and even spouse's career at this time. But you taking all these things onto yourself is not going to help you, so you definitely need to find some good advisors at this time. Whatever you do, watch your spending. Expenses are spiraling and you're not even taking much notice of them. Be careful not to accrue too much debt at this time. It's very, very likely that you will just take on debt unthinkingly during this transit. As far as your health is concerned, take advice, because the aspects to the 6th house shows that with good advice and with careful new medication, perhaps you can make a big difference here. But you're unwilling to change things. So many planets, 12th house makes you suspicious of even health advice given to you. You should listen to this advice. It could be very helpful indeed. And by the way, it's not a good time for travel with Mars's 4th aspect onto the 3rd house and so many planets, 12th house. Foreign travel especially can be difficult to you. And actually what you just need to do is to spend some time alone in some quiet contemplation, quiet study. It will give you so much benefit during this period. Avoid quarrels, confrontation with your siblings and with your work colleagues at all costs. For Pisces, Moon and Lagna, Mars in the 11th house is a really good transit. This gives you the edge on many competitors now. If you are seeking new income, new job, it's very likely you're going to find something. It mightn't be quite what you thought though, because of Mars's confrontation with Saturn, as I explained earlier on in the video. You might have to compromise on some aspects of the job, but many, many opportunities are open to you at this time. There's a definite increase in income for many Pisces, Moon and Lagna, because Mars is your 2nd lord and he goes into the 11th house. More income, more opportunities come to you, as I say. But at the same time, it's a very pressured and competitive environment and you have to come up to the mark. So you're putting in overtime, you're really going for it now, but it's affecting your health. Please take time out for yourself. Please reduce stress in your life, because Mars aspect on this 6th house can give sudden health problems coming up just unexpectedly. But on the other hand, the aspect of Mars here will enable you to quickly deal with these in a really systematic and sensible way. So if you get sudden health problems, you will overcome them almost immediately. Now, this is a very competitive environment for you right now, despite the financial benefits. And Mars has this 8th aspect onto the 6th house. So this 11th and 6th house having an 8th and a 6th aspect back creates tension in your life from the competition. The important thing is to compete with yourself. If you just try to make your own performance better rather than worrying about other people, you will get much more benefit from this transit. There's also pressure on those of you who are students because of Mars's 7th aspect onto the 5th house together with Shani as well. Particularly at the beginning of April, it gets very stressed in your education. Take it easy. You can do great work at this time. Don't underestimate your ability. Most of all, just don't have any sort of fear about competitors again. You are only competing with yourself. If you have children or you're thinking of having children, Mars aspect onto the 5th house could see you actually having a child or starting a family at this time. But it's still quite pressured with all of these grahas aspecting onto this 5th house. And once again, family affairs are to the fore because Mars is 4th aspect onto the 2nd house of family. But you can make excellent communication with your family at this time. You can actually get many difficulties of the past completely behind you. Family affairs should go very well for most of you. The aspect of Mars and Venus onto your 5th house can even bring romance into the life of some Pisceans at this time. So overall, it's a very favorable transit despite enormous pressure on yourself at times and the need to definitely take care of your health. Don't forget to sub below if you're new to my channel and check out the predictions for all signs for 2022 on your screen right now. Goodbye for now and God bless everyone.